I've spent weeks training. Countless hours spent down here. And it all leads up to this one moment. Totally worth it.
Killing a person ain't no big deal. Just put the gun to their head. Pow!
It doesn't matter who I am. I'm here for you, James. See? I'm real.
So we finally crossed this bridge. We get to the games that are pretty disliked. Next to Survivor. These games latched onto Resident Evil 4 for dear life. They did everything they could to try to recreate the sensation that was 4. These games are the most vile, despicable, horrendous games that I'm not just fucking kidding. But that's how some people act when it comes to these games. I don't understand why people hate these games with such a fiery passion, but consider 4 the best in the series. I mean, they're not some abomination like Gun Survivor. So, in this final episode covering the Resident Evil series for a while, we get to both 5 and 6. So I'm going to cover both games since I won't be going too in depth about each game. So getting this going, Resident Evil 5 was released in 2009 for the 360, PS3, and PC. There's only one other version, which was the Gold Edition, which just had all the DLC. Resident Evil 6 was released in 2013 for the same platforms. There really wasn't any other edition unless you count the Anthology one, which has like Resident Evil 1 through 5, which is pretty cool. They're not physical copies, but it's still a cool deal. 5 might not get as much hate, but 6 seems to really get pooped on. So for now, I'll talk a bit more about 5 specifically. The controls, you get like 4 control options. One is literally Resident Evil 4, and the other 3 are more modern. I usually play Type D when walking, left thumbstick moves you, and the right thumbstick moves the camera. When running, you get tank controls. The controls are better than Resident Evil 4. The turnout has been fixed and is tight and concise. Use the right thumbstick to aim, and you can adjust the aiming speed. One thing they fucked up is the goddamn inventory. This is such a clunky mess. Now this shit is real time, and you only get 9 fucking slots. This is a fucking action game. I don't want to deal with this clunky thing. On the plus side, they actually give you the ability to hotkey shit to the D-pad. Oh hey, thanks. What were they thinking? The controls are pretty stale at this point. They're much like Resident Evil 4, but a little better. Why you're still locked in place while aiming is still ass backwards. It doesn't bother me much, but was there a reason to slow down the action by keeping me locked in place? And I don't know what they thought that this real-time inventory would work, but the fuck do I know? The playstyle is pretty much a Resident Evil 4 clone. The melee attacks are a bit more accessible now. Like in Resident Evil 4, if you didn't shoot them directly in the face or the knee, i.e. the shoulder, you couldn't attack them. Now in this game, you can chain attacks together with your partner? Oh yeah, I remember why this game gets a lot of shit. So a big problem with this game is the forced co-op. This concept just blows my mind. Like, I have to look at the case just to remind myself that I am in fact playing a Resident Evil game. Like, who asked for this? Who are these people going around playing horror games and just think to themselves, man, you know it would make this a lot better if I had to play this with someone all the time, or better yet, AI. So herein lies one of the problems. You either get someone to play with you, or the AI controls the other partner. If you actually get 2 people, it's fine. It actually functions as a fun action game. If you get stuck with the AI, you get a frustrating experience that will push your patience to the extreme. You thought Ashley was bad, now we get a combat-able partner that absorbs ammo and axes to the face like it's their day job. The AI doesn't make the game unplayable, but it does some really questionable shit.
Hurry! Hurry!
Come on!
Come on! Sheva!
Come on!
Come on!
Come on!
Sheva!
They don't pick up ammo most of the time unless you tell them to, and they refuse to use anything besides the handgun unless they have absolutely no ammo for it. You're like a goddamn babysitter. Now instead of instantly dying when your health hits 0, you go into dying mode, where you can't attack or run, but you can still have your partner bring you back to fight again. Sometimes they just watch
You die.
Other than the frustrating AI partners, the combat is much like Resident Evil 4. Everything feels and sounds super satisfying. Having the ability to hotkey weapons with the D-pad really helps the action along. Despite them making some changes to accommodate the action, they pull the same shit as Resident Evil 4 by keeping weird survival horror mechanics. Except with Resident Evil 4, it was done a lot better. Now it's even more out of place. Ammo is either really abundant or super scarce. Only having 9 spaces for inventory, ammo takes up inventory. Also, again, the inventory is in real time and locks you in place. Whose fucking bright idea was that?
Give me an herb.
Take this!
Thanks for the help.
It's like, again, they wanted to make an action game, and then halfway through development, they looked at the case and was like, this is a Resident Evil game. Shit, that's some stuff to slow down the combat real fast. Really, the game is almost exactly like RE4, with no horror and a bit more action. Something that bums me out is the death scenes in this one are really tame. No decaps, no melting faces, no impalation, what gives? One thing really nice is the graphics. This is a damn pretty game. The game looks superb. The atmosphere seems a bit sterile though, there's no real feeling to them. Also, this game is ridiculously out of place. Seeing an African village in a Resident Evil game is so weird it's not funny. Not that a medieval castle in 4 was much different, but it felt more in place in this African village. The game also feels really long, and not in a good way. Some parts just seem to drag on forever. The voice acting is pretty good. Roger Craig Smith and Ava Ladare do a really good job. Something about Wesker's nasally voice makes me laugh, but oddly seems fitting. Oh yeah, the enemies. We get vampires from Blade 2. The Reapers are just angry grasshoppers. That mist though is actually really cool. The dogs are genuinely fucking horrifying. Ugh. The Lickers are here. I fucking love the Licker design, but them being here makes no sense. Lickers were failed experiments. Their heart and brain are on the outside. Now I'm no doctor, but you probably shouldn't have the most 2 important organs on the outside, chilling about. The boss fights, unlike 4, are just the worst. None of them are memorable or interesting. 3 leech monsters and a fishy guy. Now the story is another thing that really bothers me. This is where it begins to take itself too seriously. It's like now they're trying to weave a serious story into the games. Like, why do this? Resident Evil is a lot like a gay version of a B movie. Don't get me wrong, they're fucking awesome and at times can be quite tense, but rarely cross into that territory of being really serious. The story revolves around Chris, and since last time we've seen him, has run a few cycles of Tren. Goes to Africa to stop some wacky guy with a dumb accent.
Wow, perceptive, aren't ya?
Then later finds out his thought-to-be-dead partner, hey, it's Jill! Nice! Anyway, that Jill might be alive. Then you kill that guy, then the villain shifts to Wesker? Oh, okay. So Wesker's here now. This motherfucker will not die. He's doing usual villainous stuff, trying to bring on a new world order with Ouroboros. He gets launched into some lava, and game over. It's dumb.
Suck on this, Wesker.
Your time's up, you son of a bitch.
Throughout the whole game, it seems to take itself really seriously and comes off as pretentious, asking dumb questions about human existence and what we fight for. It still has cheesy moments, thankfully. I mean, Chris punches a rock for fuck's sakes. On the other hand, the cinematography in some cutscenes is really well done. So after you beat the game, you get Mercenaries mode. Again, it's fucking great, and actually my favorite one. It's really well done in this one with lots of maps, costumes, and weapons. It's really fun. The DLC is okay. I'd heard good things about Lost and Nightmares, so I finally decided to pick it up. It's pretty mediocre, honestly. It just feels like, hey, remember when this game needs to be survival horror? There's actually a segment where you're defenseless, which would be cool, but it's not scary here. The fight with Wesker pissed me off so much at the end. It only took me 50 minutes my first time through. The other one with Jill and Josh just sucked balls. Really boring, linear, and frustrating. Remember Separate Ways? Man, wasn't that cool? Here, have this. It's like that, except dumb and short. You also get extra costumes in both the campaign and mercenaries, which is pretty cool, and you can play as Barry and Rebecca. Nice! Overall, the DLC is really underwhelming. So in the end, this is a pretty fun game. It's barely a Resident Evil game, but seeing as future installments only perpetuate this gameplay, I guess it kind of is. It's got great visuals and fun gameplay. There's no horror elements in it, but it's a well-made game regardless. And when it comes to co-op, I think they should have handled it like Halo. Just have the second player play as a random mercenary, not a major character. Bottom line, this is a fun game that I can honestly recommend if you liked 4. So moving on, before you can tell me I'm wrong, we get to 6. You're fucking wrong. Right away with 6, the controls have finally been updated to fit the gameplay. It's about goddamn time. Left thumbstick moves your character, and right thumbstick moves the camera. You can finally move and aim. Jesus, they finally listen! Hey everybody, they finally listen! They kind of have like a dead zone where you actually have to move in a circle instead of just snapping to the direction you push. But at least you're always running. The inventory's a bit better, but still rough. The worst part is trying to fuck around with the herbs. I have to combine them, put them in my Tic Tac dispenser, exit the menu, then dispense the Tic Tacs. Oh god, this is so dumb it hurts my brain. Also, Tic Tac herbs. They remove the ability to hotkey weapons, so we get one control advancement at the cost of others. Why? Why you do this to me? Now melee is mapped to just pulling the right trigger. Awesome. For some reason they added a stamina meter which dictates how many times you can use your melee to again make the action less fun. The hand-to-hand combat is handled weirdly. A lot of people said it was really good, but I think we're playing different games. It's not bad, but pulling the left trigger causes you to go in a fighting stance in which you slowly walk around with your fists up as you approach your enemy. I'm gonna get ya. It just feels really sluggish. They should have increased your walk speed with your melee equipped. They added a dodge feature which actually complements the game quite nicely, although it's a bit finicky. The cover's a lot less clunky now and is much more useful since almost every enemy in the game has guns now. Fucking great! Oh, and you can switch hands too. No longer is one character confined to one orientation, so the controls are overall very accessible. Took fucking long enough. The gameplay has been revamped with a fuck ton of QTEs. There are so many QTEs, holy shit! One thing they have dramatically improved was your partner. You don't have to micromanage their shit, and they rarely cause problems. They usually just fuck off and do their own thing. There are 4 separate campaigns, and each play the same, but they all kinda have like this subtle different playstyle. Leon's campaign is kind of reminiscent of survival horror, with bringing back zombies and having a horror vibe going on. I'm not alone in saying this, but this is obviously the best one out of the 4. Chris and his fucking faggot-ass partner Piers is just absolute shit. It's the action-based campaign, and it just sucks. Despite the controls being much better, they're still not up to the task for a full third-person shooter, and is just devoid of ammo. Jake and Sherry's campaign is pretty meh. It too is super action, but with more CQC. It's cool they brought Sherry back. I can't put my finger on it, but I really like this new Sherry that they got here. Of course they have a segment where she's fucking naked. God damn it, I'll be right back. And lastly, a hidden campaign involving Ada. It's got more stealth and puzzles. It's alright, I guess. Really rudimentary stealth. So the game is split into 4 separate scenarios that all intertwine and tell the most disjointed story. The game just feels like a big fan service. It's like, hey, remember all these great characters? Man, wasn't it awesome? Hey, look, they're all in the same game. Look at all these butts, booty, butts. Despite the game being 100% action, they still have the fucking mental capacity to limit ammo. Not only is this a real problem, they give you a fucking limited inventory. Why? 3 games now and they just keep making the same mistakes. The enemies in this one just ugh. Like the zombies look fine, and having the body degradation is a really awesome touch. Watching them literally fly at you just looks so fucking stupid though. The parasite people are shit. You see this? Am I the only one who saw this? This is a guy with 2 wasp asses coming out of his neck.
Interesting story. I want to do some facts.
This is just a half-man, half-maggot hybrid. A spider's body and a man's torso. These designs are fucking awful. Carnage from Spider-Man? Fuck it, why not? Leatherface? Sure, go for it. Lord Zed? I fucking love Power Rangers too. An asshole monster that farts. Shit stinks. The only one I like is the weird guts monster.
What the hell?
And this fucking chainsaw guy. The chainsaw guy is just so metal. Reminds me of something straight from Tokyo Gore Police. The enemies are some of the worst in the series. I mean, fucking after 18 games, I can't really expect amazing enemies in each one. But this shit is just scraping the bottom of the barrel. Now the story, fuck it. It's dumb. Some villain that is just dumb and pretty much not fair. Throughout the game, I often forget who or what the main objective is. Like there are a lot of cutscenes and a lot of story elements too that are just all disjointed. And I thought 5 took itself too seriously. This one has almost no cheese and such melodramatic elements that pull me in like the characters from The Room.
You are lying. I never hit you. You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Again, after beating the game, you unlock Mercenaries mode and Ada's campaign. The Mercenaries mode is fine. Honestly, I prefer 5's, but that's just because something about this one just doesn't do it for me. The level design, from what I've played, is just off. The game is functional. It's got really good graphics, one of the best looking in the series. The voice acting's pretty good. I mean, it's got T. Roy Baker. And Marie. I think I heard Broske in there too. P4 Resident Evil crossover?
Now I face up, I hold up, I reach out to the
Resay Best Girl. It changes some of the problems with 5 in terms of combat. So, at the end of the day, this is a pretty okay game. So why is this the one that fans are just appalled by? It stems from a couple of reasons. First, the name, Resident Evil. The only reason I know this is a Resident Evil game is 1, the title with the guy blowing a giraffe tells me it is, and 2, Leon is in it. This game has flimsy ties to the past series, a few backstories and names, Sherry, Chris, Leon, Ada, and a quick note about their connections. That's about it when it comes to connecting it to the series. Most of the gameplay is completely changed. We've moved from a pioneer of survival horror to the standard third-person action shooter. Any fan of any series is usually pretty resistant to major changes to a game, and there's no exception here. The series has changed so much it's hardly recognizable, and when a series completely alienates its original fan base, it's usually frowned upon. Survival horror has always been a niche genre of games, and when Remake and Zero sold like shit, Capcom took it as survival horror was no longer valuable, so they decided to try to widen their audience with an already existing IP. Now they're stuck in a purgatory where they're trying to appease the both fan bases at the same time. The problem, as I've said, lies in the fact they keep making games holding the Resident Evil name while making whatever they feel like. Instead of starting a new IP because a brand name's gonna pull in more cash right off the bat, they keep slapping Resident Evil on the cover, throwing a few tie-ins and name drops to tie it in the past games. But here's where I ask, what do you think warrants a new IP? Where do you draw the line in terms of what's an okay change versus an unacceptable one? Is it changing the gameplay too much? Is it the story, the characters? Despite the tenuous connections in 6, this still fits into the overall arc of the Resident Evil universe. If you think about it, this is a logical step in the right direction. Like the first 3 games worked with horror since it was a small contained town in which the virus was released, but now the threat has gone global. Having a more militaristic approach to stop the end of the human race works, doesn't it? It's fucking impossible to please people, and in the game world it isn't any different. Don't change enough about a game series, it's a cash-in in just the same game. Change too much about a series, it's just too different and doesn't fit. I'm guilty of complaining about the same shit. Most game devs are in a tight spot when it comes to a series of games, and it only gets harder as the series continues on. You can only change gameplay so much, or drag out a story so far, before it just doesn't work. Resident Evil hit this wall fucking years ago. The story has gone so far, and the gameplay has been exhausted. The game should have just ended after 4 and been left alone. The combat is fine, the story sucks, and the graphics are great. I really think the biggest problem is they just keep fucking up how they handle the gameplay. No one's getting that pissy because the story is dumb. It's because the name Resident Evil is associated with horror, zombies, and so on. So what all the series has done is just distance itself from its roots while trying to appeal to its original fan base. We're left with a mediocre shooter. That really is the biggest problem for me. It's not like a classic Resident Evil, and as an action game, aside from a few cool action set pieces, is just subpar. It's not a good Resident Evil game, and it's not really a standout action game. I know I referenced it before, but it should have just done what Dino Crisis 2 did and just cut all ties to its previous genre. Sure, fans might not be happy at first, but you're better off making a stellar action game than trying to appease the fans by keeping older mechanics that hinder the gameplay unnecessarily just to fit the molds of previous games. Seeing Resident Evil shift to the opposite spectrum damn near doesn't make me happy, but I'd rather than make a game that stops trying to hold on to the past by keeping some mechanics that does anything but streamline the action. The game isn't a fucking abomination it's made out to be, not even close, but I wouldn't pay too much for it. The series is a mere shadow of its former self. So in all, they're both fun games, 5 more so. If you liked Resident Evil 4, pick these up for cheap, you'll most likely enjoy it. With that said, time to wash my hands of the Resident Evil series for a while. With Resident Evil out of the way, leave a comment if there's a game you'd like to see covered. So next time, I'm probably going to talk about a spooky game.
Punch harder. Punch harder.
What is it? I suck dick at this, I just don't pay enough attention.
It really fucking hurts my knuckles. My knucky.
Oh, you caught me working out. Sorry.